If you found out you had 6 months left to live, how would you spend your time? I want you to take a couple seconds to think about what you would do. The top three things that I came up with are firstly, my relationships. I want to spend as much time as I can with the people I love, my friends and family, and make as many memories as I can with them before I'm gone. Secondly, learning. I want to learn and explore the world and have as many new experiences as I can, whether it's seeing new sights or learning new cultures. And thirdly, giving back. Before I leave this world, I want to help as many people as I can and make an impact so that I can leave this earth better than it was when I first got here. I believe that the answer to this question is the same for most, if not all people, to be free and enjoy the world and the limited time that we have here. So, where do we spend our time? As a society, we've normalized a system based on industrial revolution needs. We spend many years of our life preparing to get a decent job and work hard at it so that we can retire. And once retired, people usually reflect back on their life and realized they missed the prime of their life working or stressing about work. Did you know that 12.5% of the average person's life is spent in school? This is only kindergarten to grade 12 and doesn't include extracurriculars, university, or anything else we do to prepare ourselves for a future career. To put this more simply, you don't live your life like this every day because you have to worry about your future and survival 10 to 50 years down the line. We constantly hear that we should work hard now so that we can reap the benefits later, but how many years are we really waiting? If you knew you only had 6 months left to live, you wouldn't be worrying about your future and survival, and instead, only focusing on how you can enjoy the limited time that you know you have left. Try to think of time as your most important investment. You might be thinking, who cares? We're young. We have tons of time. As teens, we think of time as this expansive thing we have a lot of. Remember how long summer holidays felt when you were a little kid? 1 year can seem long if you've only lived 5 years, but if you've lived 80, your perspective is different. You appreciate the value of time. Think of time as a compound interest of living. Putting a little thought into how you spend it now, and your path will be exponentially more enjoyable. This means we have to do some thinking about where we spend our time. Randy Pausch, a professor of computer science at Carnegie University, was diagnosed with terminal cancer at the age of 46. He was invited to give a talk titled The Last Lecture and said, quote, "The key question to keep asking is, are you spending your time on the right things?" Unquote. What makes his last lecture powerful is he was giving it after he had been diagnosed. He knew that he would be leaving behind his wife and 3 little kids. He filmed this talk for his kids so they'd have something to remember, and he wanted to share the most important things he'd learned about life. He talked about achieving childhood dreams, the need to overcome obstacles, helping other people make their own dreams come true, and seizing every moment because, quote, "Time is all you have, and you may find that one day you have less of it than you think," unquote. His talk was about what it means to live and continues to impact thousands of people around the world. One of my teachers ends every class by saying, "Thank you for spending your time with me, your only non-renewable resource." It's a great reminder to spend my time wisely, but thinking about it can be a bit scary and even make me feel anxious. You can never get time back. Where do you spend it? And do you waste it? It's important to remember that nobody is spending all of their time perfectly, especially with social media in recent times where people post their perfect lives and their daily routines that can honestly be just unrealistic. Try to remember that although it might look like they're accomplishing a lot more than you, nobody is perfect, and all you can do is focus on yourself and how you want to improve. You have 24 hours in a day, the same as anyone else. It's up to you how you spend that time. Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, a world expert on death and dying, said, quote, It's only when we truly know and understand we have a limited time on earth and that we have no way of knowing when our time is up, we will then begin to live each day to the fullest as if it was the only one we had. Unquote. You know who doesn't waste time? People who don't have much of it left. I think it's important to get perspectives from people who have been around longer than you and have had more experiences. Why? Because they've lived through and had experiences that you haven't. When dying patients were interviewed about their lives, they talked about how they would have spent their time differently if they were to do it all again. None of them said anything about how they wished they had worked more, and instead wished they had spent more time with family and loved ones. I want to make every minute count. A couple of years ago, my grandfather passed away from cancer. He was obviously doing a lot of thinking about what matters in life. What I remember most is him telling me to choose a career I'll enjoy because I'll be doing it for the rest of my life. That's a bit daunting, doing the same thing every day for the rest of my time on Earth. How do you choose? The best way to choose a path is to know yourself well. What do you care about? What do you like to do? What kind of environment do you like? What kinds of people do you like to be around? If you know the answer to these questions, when you make big decisions, they'll be based on things meaningful for you. The world is changing. My grandfather lived in a time where you had one career for your whole life, but that doesn't exist anymore. You know that you'll have multiple careers over your lifetime, but I think the same advice is true. If you know yourself well, you'll be able to choose the best path for you, no matter how many times you'll have to change it. If you don't, your context will decide for you, and when you know how limited your time is on Earth, and that every second that passes is one you'll never get back, why would you let someone else choose where you spend it? Whatever you choose to do, things that are worth spending time on aren't always easy to do. Although I'm telling you to think about how you can spend your time on the things you enjoy, I want to point out I'm not only saying that you should do the things that you enjoy. There are things that aren't fun, but are still an important and necessary part of our journey. When that's the case, try this approach. Keep a good perspective, be positive, and immerse yourself. For me specifically, something that I never really enjoyed to do was running. Although I never enjoyed it and it wasn't something I looked forward to, I started to do it because I knew that if I did, it would help my body get healthier. When I first started, it was something that I would dread, but as I stayed consistent, putting in the time, I started to enjoy it more and more. After every run, I always felt very satisfied, so I had to push through the pain during the run to be able to feel the satisfaction when it was over. There was an interview done with dying patients, and when thinking about time, it makes sense to go to those who have given it some thought. The interviews with dying patients taught me 3 big lessons. That life is short, so do what you love. Take risks and chase your dreams, and strive to leave behind a legacy. They all wished they'd listened to their heart, taken risks to fulfill their potential, and connected with more people to leave a bigger impact in the world. At the beginning of this talk, I asked you to think of 3 things you'd do if you knew how limited your time is on Earth. I'd spend my time with the people I love, learning by doing things I enjoy that help me grow, and figuring out how I can leave this Earth a better place than it was when I first got here. I hope that everyone has taken time to reflect on your time during my talk and wanted to thank you for spending yours with me. I want you to remember that we have 2 lives. The second one begins when we realize we only have one. Thank you.